So welcome to the much anticipated Gen Z Unplugged. I want to tell you kind of how this thing started. I have been clearly quarantined for 11 months with some Gen Zers hanging out in my house all the time. And what's been really fascinating is that the conversations that have gone on in my house, I feel like I kind of have one ear in the Gen Z world. And then I also hear a lot of frankly, my other mom friends and parents and other generations and coworkers and like their perspective of the world. And what's interesting is that there are two very different perspectives going on that are divided by generations. And I think that nothing solidifies that more than what happened with this whole like Reddit thing. I didn't understand it. I didn't get what really just went on with GameStop. I'm like, GameStop? Do people still go to GameStop? What do you mean AMC stocks are like going through the roof? I thought they were shut down. And then I just asked these kids, and these kids told me everything that I needed to understand it. And I realized they understand these, I would call high level things more than most of us do. And, you know, and I just thought it would be interesting to have this conversation, like bring people together, have this conversation. And, you know, I mean, if we're really being honest, you know, boomers, when you heard that this was going on, I mean, I'm assuming, you know, most of you pretty much were like wondering what's happening with my retirement. I mean, is my retirement just now completely like down the toilet? What's really happening? I mean, Gen X, which is what I am, you know, we're just a bunch of grunge rebels, but deep down, we don't really understand like what the heck just happened with the stock market and these short selling and the hedge funds and all of that. I mean, you know, we keep like, we're fist pumping, you know, power to the man. And yet we don't really, we're secretly like, okay, what even is a hedge fund, right? And I would say, you know, millennials understand Reddit, understand, you know, some of what just happened, but millennials, you're used to being on the cutting edge. You're used to being like the trend-setting generation. And I think that what we all just found out is that there's this new wave of generation behind you that's really ahead of you. And so I love seeing how these kids have grown up and who they're becoming. And I think we have a lot to learn. So as a Gen Zer, as an adult, as a mom, I'm kind of sitting back listening. I've got one ear to the ground, listening and learning from these guys. So let's do this. I want to do a quick introduction so you know who we have on here. Spencer, why don't we start with you?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer Fleurant. I'm a sophomore at Princeton University, majoring in economics. And what I want to be in my life is I want to be either in investment banking or private equity.
And he's also on the men's soccer team at Princeton. We are very proud. I have to say, all these kids grew up with each other. So so they know each other very, very well. And so high five to Spence. Okay, Ahmad.
Hello, my name is Ahmad Al-Khatib. I'm a second year at the Claremont Colleges, Pittsburgh to be specific. I co-founded a company called Ultra Listing. It's a real estate company, so you guys should check it out.
Yes, absolutely. We will we'll drop the link in the chat. And you're majoring in?
Economics and psychology.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I would probably say an innovator in real estate and the tech sectors.
Sweet. All right, and who do we have next to you?
I'm Andrew Starks. I'm a freshman at Cal Poly, and I'm currently studying finance, real estate, and law. And I hope to be a real estate attorney when I grow up.
There you go. Nice. He does not want to get into family law. Just not want to get into family law, so he will not be taking the reins. Okay. And Mr. Randy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Randy. I'm a sophomore at University of California, Irvine, and I'm majoring in criminology, law, and society. And I hope to one day be a lawyer in the corporate field.
Love it. Love it. All right. So, I have lots of questions, and we're going to try and get through them all. But I want to hear from you guys what like what just happened? Can you explain to anybody who doesn't understand what happened in the stock market? And then I want you to explain why. Okay. Who wants to start?
Well, basically these hedge funds, they tried to short the company of GameStop because they were going out of business, which basically means that they were betting that the value of the GameStop stock will go down. And then this Reddit account run by Wall Street Bets actually found out about this and told everybody to purchase GameStop stocks. And then that forces the prices to go up. And as a result of that, these hedge funds lost a lot of money because the stocks went up.
And the thing that also drove these stocks to even go higher is that the hedge funds had to cover their bets. So as the stock was rising, they had to cover their bets and buy more shares as it was going up. So that just pushed it higher and higher. That's why it was up like 1,500 or 1,600%.
Yeah, but like another big like impact of it was the magnitude. Like if you really look into the detail, how many people participated in this, it's unbelievable.
Okay, so so explain to those of us that are not familiar what is Reddit, because Ahmad, I think that Reddit is what really allowed and empowered the magnitude of it, right? Like what is Reddit?
Reddit is like a forum, a public forum where you can make communities and join and basically post multiple posts. Like anyone can post that's in the community. And basically this Reddit called Wall Street Bets was created. And the owner of it was actually a financial advisor. And he decided that they were shorting GameStop. So they just got a bunch of people to start buying stuff and bet against the short sellers, the hedge fund managers.
So the way they found out about it was because the Reddit founder is a finance guy.
Yeah, it was mainly, it's just, what Reddit is a database where a bunch of people can just come and talk. So in better terms for you all watching, it's another form of Slack kind of. It's a public one where anyone can join a community. Think about it like
it's like a social media.
It's a form of social media, and it has like communities, and you can join a community. For example, I can join a community about podcasts, a community about stocks, and this happened to be about stocks. And it's just they realized, like Randy was saying, that these big companies were shorting GameStop, and these group of millennials were like pissed in a sense that, we want to make some money. They keep taking money. So they shorted this, or what they did is they bought stock. And on top of that, they would actually go on gamestop.com and purchase subscriptions to raise revenue. Game
cards, everything.
Yeah, game cards, games, subscriptions, just like they have $10 subscriptions, and everybody signed up. And what happened is it drove the stock, because revenue in that week was so high in previous weeks. So it drove the stock so high, and how much it had from was like 2.7 billion, around like 2.7 billion.
And there was over 5 million people in the Reddit, so you could imagine.
So yeah, you could see the magnitude just from that.
And on top of that, there's also this one app called Discord, where it's basically like a WhatsApp, and there was over 1 million people in that as well, just participating and buying GameStop.
Okay, so like while most of us, your parents, are on Facebook, and we think we're pretty cool if we're even on like Twitter. Most of us have a Snapchat app, and we don't exactly know how to use it. Maybe we do, but we're really living on Instagram and Facebook. You guys are like onto other things. You guys are onto all these other platforms, and you're convening, congregating, talking, whatever, and creating movements on things that we don't really even know existed. Because I'll be honest with you, I think many of the older generations didn't even know that Reddit existed until like a week ago or whatever. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is too, it didn't have to be just on Reddit that this happened. The person that owned Wall Street Bets could have had an account on Twitter, Instagram, something other like that, and then could have told all their followers to do the same thing. It just happened that he had a following on the Reddit page.
It's also a sense of community. Mr. Starks, I know we talked about this like this past week, which I think also kind of generated this entire idea is the whole idea behind our Gen Z is all four of us can account for is we're able to build a community, find something, and then we approach it together, and the magnitude is what wins for us.
So Ahmad, I'm super interested in this piece because I want to kind of go there for a second. one thing that we were talking about, matter of fact, we're all sitting, I think like in Andrew's bedroom, and we were all just kind of chit-chatting, and I mentioned that what's interesting about your generation is that, you know, you guys don't have a lot of trust in things that your parents and other generations do. In other words, when I grew up, we used to tune in to, my parents used to turn on the 6 o'clock evening news religiously every night. And it was the local news. It was like, what's going on in town? And then at 6:30 was the national news. And they either tuned in to a man named Dan Rather, or another man named Peter Jennings, or Tom Brokaw, or if they were a little bit older, Walter Cronkite. Okay, like those four men is who the whole country tuned into at 6:30 p.m. local time every night, and we got the news. And it wasn't this ongoing all day, every day. It was just, oh, this is what's going on in the world today. And they delivered it poker-faced. They delivered it factually. And everyone collectively believed it. There was no question about what really went on. It was just, this was it. You tuned in, it was the facts. And your generation doesn't even, I don't even think you can comprehend that, because everything in the news is opinionated. It's got, you know, there are narratives behind stuff, there are motives behind things. And then you've got things like, you know, the government has made decisions for you. I mean, you know, Randy, you and Ahmad were here locally in school, but in the dorms. Spence, you were in, you know, you were at Princeton, and it's the beginning of the time of your life. Andrew, you were a freshman at Cal Poly, living at home, but and a freshman at Cal Poly, and then all of a sudden, the government, you know, I mean, we've had the pandemic, right? And so there have been decisions you guys had to just unplug and come home.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed is that there is a distrust in your generation. You don't really know what to trust. You don't trust a lot of media. You don't trust a lot of government. You don't trust, so you're kind of questioning everything. And then even your own social media, there's censorship now. So there's a little bit of cannibalism there. So, you know, Ahmad, what's your response to that?
Well, honestly, the most basic response is our trust is within each other. And we just understand that if we bypass these government restrictions, this and that, coronavirus, COVID-19, getting kicked out of school, it's a matter of, it's all right. Everybody's going through it. It's just a matter of we gain experience and it builds us as a person. And then when we put trust into each other, you can see this with trends. I mean, like they were just talking about the Reddit trend. I mean, we made history. You can see TikTok. I know for sure, even all generations know about TikTok because the trends that it's creating. So I think from there, there's a lot of power in that.
What do you think about this big tech censorship? What's your opinion on that? You think
I think it's scary.
You think it's scary?
That's what I think. If
It's
anything.
scary that a few men are controlling what we see and hear. I mean, there's just so many outlets out there, and there's so many different political agendas, and most people are listening to like what they want to hear. Like if you're right, if you tend to like the right, then you're going to be listening to Fox. If you tend to go to the left, you're obviously going to be listening to CNN and other outlets. But there's just so many different political agendas, and now that like a few big names like Zuckerberg and all these big figures that control what we're seeing and hearing is kind of it's very scary. But like you kind of have to take that in with a grain of salt and kind of understand, like when you're looking at stuff, you have to understand like this may not be completely true. That's why there's also a lack of trust.
Yeah, but wouldn't you also agree to an extent, like our generation will also get news from each other, like TikTok, like a lot of my friends, like I guess all of us, I mean, we figure out news from TikTok. So like, what do we consider that trustful, or where, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not Fox News, it's not.
You should fact check after. Like
I mean,
you can see something on TikTok that's probably completely made up, but like if some stuff is true on TikTok.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the most basic understanding, like from news. Like if I see something happening, like, all right, who won I mean, obviously not the presidency, but like a basic new news breaking story, I'll see it on TikTok first, and then I'll search it. And then TikTok will be
TikTok
our
is faster,
verification.
I think one of the important things too is there's always two sides to a story. And then I feel like today everything is so divided that you kind of already have a side that you're on. And so you're going to listen to whatever side. You'll have one side
Yeah.
supporting what you think. And so you're going to support that. And the other side will have something supporting what they think. And
It's so polarized right
it's so
now.
polarized and divided right now that you're just kind of going to believe whatever you already believe in.
So you guys get your news from TikTok.
Oh,
Not exactly.
No, you
no,
don't say that. I'm
sounds-
saying like
No.
not to
We
an
hear about
extent.
things
We
through
hear you.
TikTok.
I mean, I'm
You
saying
hear about
yeah,
things
it's
and
another.
you dive in deeper.
I would
about
never
it.
take stock information from TikTok.
It's
There
another
is-
route.
There is a lot
Yeah.
of stock information.
There is,
on
but
it.
it's just-
it's risk. It's all
Yeah.
I don't have
risk.
TikTok.
So you guys get news and you verify it. You fact check everything.
Fact check, yeah.
Yeah, to an extent.
I mean,
Or I
I
mean,
mean, I get my news from both sides. Like I have this CNN app and
Yeah.
Fox app and other.
like I'm subscribed to Wall Street Journal. I have Fortune. So I mean, it's a mix of both worlds. I'm just saying, you'll just be scrolling on TikTok and you'll get news on it.
Like you'll hear about.
You'll hear something about you that you haven't heard about before.
it's good to get both sides. There's this term called single story, which is very you only see one side, so you believe it, but it's it's untrue. It's true, but it's untruthful because you haven't heard the other side.
Both sides are right, both sides are
Yeah.
wrong.
But
It's kind
what
of-
I like to add, I think, which is powerful with our generation, is the act that, like you were talking about when you were younger, watching the news, it was so monotoned and it was just singleized, where everyone was watching the same thing. Whereas us, we have options. It gets us thinking. It makes us leaning, and it basically, I think, as a generation as a whole, I mean, we're gonna probably be able to do a little bit more to extent because we understand more. We have to think more. We have to compare the two sides and see.
So how do you think your generation can kind of help us get out of this mess?
That would be the thing, is everyone would have to be able to listen to both opinions on both sides and come to disagree to agree or agree to
Yeah, it's
disagree.
it's being open-minded
Yeah.
kind of.
An
That's what it comes
interesting
down
thing
to.
though too is, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's the movie The Social Experiment, and they discuss how 1 in every 6 facts that's online is actually misinformation or false.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
it's kind of like you have a 1 in 6 chance of actually being true about something,
Yeah.
and I think that's also just very hard to kind of decipher.
Andrew, I remember you watched Social Experiment one weekend or whatever, and it kind of freaked
It's
you
really
out.
crazy.
Like, it
it's
freaked
pretty
you out.
scary.
A lot of what people do, especially in Gen Z, is just read the title of news articles as well.
And then
just
assume
act,
that,
yeah, just assume they know everything about the story.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's one thing you should avoid.
Yeah, one thing is also a lot of miscommunications between our generation as well.
Yeah.
You have if you see a scale, there's no outliers. Everybody's up here, everybody's here, and everybody's
It's
all.
all the
it's
extremes.
It's
all
either
the-
extreme. It's
yeah.
either you're on my side or you're the enemy. That's kind of how
It's-
everybody
yeah.
thinks about it.
Right.
So you get a little bit of
There's no in
everything.
between there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So my friend Natalie, I used to fly with Natalie back in my former days. And Natalie, she said, remember waiting for the morning newspaper to see what the headlines were. Like, you didn't have this real-time ongoing forever news thing. It was
I think it's too much news, if anything.
It's the opposite now. They're waiting for us to wake up. Before I wake up, I have 10 notifications
Yeah.
from different news sites.
100%. I mean, that's exactly what it's turned into. And okay, so let me ask you this. I think there's another thing that's I'm super fascinated because you guys are so into the stock market. And I will tell you that when I was your age, and I know you get sick of hearing me say it, but when I was your age, the stock market was something that adults talked about. You had to be kind of old to talk about it, and you had to be into that. And it was something that we just never, it was not anything that our generation talked about at your age ever.
Yeah.
We didn't understand it. And if we're being perfectly honest, most of us still don't understand it. I don't understand it. And so how did you guys even get involved in the stock market? Do they teach it? Did you guys all take a class, the whole country of Gen Zers, and they taught you about the stock market? How did you guys even get involved in the stock market?
I have a pretty interesting story. I can take this one.
Go for it.
So when I was 10 or 11, I think my dad started talking to me about investing, and I was like, no way I can make money off of money. That's such a cool thing. I fell in love with it. And he would always bring me the newspaper. This was before like everyone had iPhones and computers. I was like 10 or 11. And he would always bring in the newspaper and I'd be like, oh, 52-week high, Apple's up, or like certain stocks are up. And I was so excited. And then eventually like I started saving my birthday, my Christmas money. And I think in like 2012, like Facebook IPO'd and I like got in as an early investment like right after. And like I won big, like it obviously went up, but like obviously a big winner, like it's a good start. And like obviously I've had failures with my like investing career since then, but like having a winner at the start like kind of even makes you fall more in love with it. So like that's kind of my story, I guess. And that was like before. It's like now it's a lot more accessible with Robinhood and like iPhones. You can literally two clicks of a button and you can invest.
You can have an account.
Before it was all through the phone.
Yeah, my dad was calling. Like, So
Spencer, you were turned on to it by your dad.
Yeah.
And you invested in the Facebook IPO. Okay, I'm just gonna give you my login to Robinhood, Spencer, and you can just.
See, no, that's where you're already starting wrong. You should not be using.
Okay.
No Robinhood, yeah.
See, we talked about this.
You guys,
I already told you cancel the account.
Robinhood
it's the big FU to Robinhood. So you guys
It's
are
a big one. A big one.
Delete Robinhood right
what,
now.
What, Robinhood is what put the ability to trade stocks in the palm of your hand. Why are you guys
There's
now?
other apps. There's other applications.
Robinhood was
There are
just-
other apps because
Robinhood
both
is made
are
for
finally
beginners.
catching on to Robinhood, and you guys are on to something else.
Robinhood was one of the biggest ones for one reason was no commission fees and no like start buying power. Usually they have limits to how much buying power you could put in before you could actually get access to the account. And with Robinhood, there's one saying, if you're not paying, you are the product. So it makes sense what Robinhood's doing with like data collection and just all that. So it's kinda,
So if you're so get that. If you're not paying, if it's free, you are the product.
Yeah.
the most-
And
So
in the more
I-
technical terms, real quick, in more technical terms, basically Robinhood is not a brokerage. What they do is they're a data companies. When you get a share, they don't go directly with the SEC in the stock market and buy the share. They send it to a brokerage. I think they use Citadel, which is a huge hedge fund investment firm, and they do the call for you.
Yeah.
So Robinhood is just a middleman. They do absolutely nothing. They just say, okay, you want to do this, and let me go talk to these people and do this. Whereas literally every other registered brokerage is immediately what you call straight to the market. So that's the reason why Robinhood isn't big. And now big hedge funds also control Robinhood. That's the big thing why people are saying the big FU to it, because they froze GameStop, they froze AMC, not letting people trade it. I mean, their stock's dying down. Now they're saying they might not even be IPO'd anymore.
they put limits this morning
yeah.
too.
Limits this morning.
They put limits basically
Because
making it so you couldn't buy. And,
hedge funds control it. They control it.
It's because Melvin Capital was losing a bunch of money.
Mhm.
Basically,
As well as
Melvin
Citadel.
Capital, Citadel,
Citadel,
and Robinhood are all like.
They all own Robinhood.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
big hedge funds own Robinhood. So
basically,
they said
they
Yeah.
got screwed with GameStop going up. So basically,
Robinhood basically is
They
protecting
manipulated the
they're
market.
basically protecting their rich buddies and stuff from
Okay,
what they
so
were
hold
used
on.
to do to other.
I have a
working
question
class.
about that, but real quick, Andrew, can you move the microphone a little bit over towards? No, you're fine, Ahmad, but over towards Randy, because Randy, the mic's not picking you up as well. No, towards the silver microphone towards Randy.
Silver mic's working.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway,
Yeah, we're
so okay, so the thing is that you guys, your whole generation, why, like, I think you guys got pissed at the hedge funds because you're like, the man has been manipulating the markets for years, and
It's not necessarily about them manipulating the market. It's about how they manipulated the market, and then when it didn't go their way, Robinhood protected them and helped them out. Whereas if we, like as the working class people, tried to manipulate the market and it didn't go our way, we would lose our money and we would have lost. However, it seems as if like they're basically not letting them lose and they're just letting them stay on top, which is kind of why everybody's also saying a big FU to Robinhood, because they shouldn't be freezing and not allowing you to buy or sell stocks just because their rich buddies are not.
they're
not losing money.
allowing to sell. They just were giving limits on how many you could buy. They wanted people to sell.
Yeah, but now they're saying they don't even have the money to give to the people that want.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
But
yeah.
the big
Because
thing
they
is
bailed
that
out their
they have
farmers.
like 2 Super Bowl commercials, but they owe people millions of dollars.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
another big reason why people are getting mad.
so it was sort of this, this rise up of the
Exactly.
like people would be up and like basically have millions and wouldn't be able to
Everybody
sell.
else found out how like, you can also manipulate the market.
I mean-
so we decided to basically do it again with the Reddit and Tell everybody to buy.
Overall, if this
Not
situation never happened, I think Robinhood could had the potential to be revolutionary. It's the
Very.
act. You can sign up for a stock account from your phone with only a social, or like the last 4 digits of your social security, and you're ready to trade right there and then. Whereas when I signed up in high school, I had a TD account, a TD Ameritrade, and it took me literally 2 weeks to be 100% verified to trade. And I had to go through a bunch of paperwork. My dad and I had to go back and forth, like mailing stuff just to get verified, where now it's a click of a button and you're trading on this thing called the stock market. So I think that's like the revolutionary aspect of it. But then they screwed up.
But then they screwed up, and then they lost your trust.
Yeah, they lost our trust.
They lost your trust. And so that's what's so interesting, is that there are just, so many of the platforms that you guys buy into, and then, they lose your trust and you're like, peace out. And then you go on to something else.
That's a big thing, I think, with Gen Z that we need to recognize, is when we lose trust, we'll lose trust. Like
one slip up and
we'll drop it. Like, cause we already know,
that's life.
we already know that the next best product will come out. Like the thing with Gen Z is we understand we are in the future. Like we understand that, knock on wood, that we will be living past, hopefully like 80 to 100 years old, past that age. We understand that potentially there will be flying cars. Is the exponential rate of tech where it's going now, and it hasn't even hit our generation. Like this is just when we were babies, but when we're 30 or 40, I think we don't even know where we're going to be.
It's going to be revolutionary.
Talk about that for a second, because I do. So Andrew said he defined. He spoke of the working class as though you all are part of the working class.
So
Retail investors.
retail investors, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So, okay, so let me ask you guys, here's another thing that's super interesting to me. And that is that when I was your age, I got a job, like a legit or whatever, like a job. My first job was at Disney World. I'm from Orlando, and many kids who grew up in Orlando, a lot of times their first job is working at Disney. And I worked, whatever, minimum wage or whatever it was at Disney. And I just got my little paycheck. I had my set hours. I had my uniform, and, whatever. I went to work and I did the thing when I was in high school. And then in college, I got jobs. You guys are in a very different environment now, where you guys can just sign up for Postmates or sign up for Grubhub or whatever, Instacart, whatever. And you just kind of turn this app on, like you roll out of bed at like 2 p.m. and you're like, I need to make $60 today. And so I'm just going to flip on my app, and then I'm going to go like run some errands for people or whatever. And, and then you just turn it off when you're done. You have no boss. You didn't have to interview for it. You didn't have to, you don't have like accountability in that term. You don't have somebody who's kind of coaching and molding you into that job. You're literally little entrepreneurs with these apps, the gig economy that is available in the palm of your hand. And so I want to ask you guys some questions around that. One question is, what is your hourly rate? What do you feel that right now today that you are worth per hour?
I think it depends on the work, really. But
just like manual labor.
Yeah, if you're talking manual,
manual labor. Yeah.
I that's like a hard way to answer it, because manual labor. We're forced to go with minimum wage. I would say, but then I don't want to like underestimate myself. Like, okay, like $20 an hour.
But my question is, how much are you going to roll out of bed and go to work for?
Just
Like,
depends
what is it? Would you go do something for $12 an hour?
No.
If it's simple, very simple, yeah.
At this point in my life, probably not.
No, you wouldn't do something for $12 an hour. Would you do something? Would you do something for $20 an hour?
Yeah.
If it would be a fun thing, like if I'm gonna have fun doing
Okay,
it.
so it has to be fun.
If there's beneficial factors, like if you're trying to tell me to like build a shed right now for $20 an hour, if I'm doing absolutely nothing, then yeah, but I'm not gonna drop something to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just laying in bed and you're going to offer me some money and I need something to do, yeah, of course, I'll take it.
There's a lot of better ways to make money though now too, especially with Postmates
Yeah,
and
we're
Instacart.
not like you said, we're all mini entrepreneurs. We can just, if we want money, we'll find a way. It's not like we can go work, we can trade in the stock market, we can go do Postmates, we can do Instacart, million things that we could do now.
You can make like 30, 40 bucks an hour off Instacart Postmates just with tips itself. So
how much an hour, like in a prime?
I mean,
time?
I've done it for about from like 5 hours, and I've made about $130 just over 5 hours.
It does depend on the day and the
gas.
time, though.
Yeah.
And there's always gas.
Yeah,
Because
there's
if you
always
don't have a
gas,
fuel
but-
efficient car, it's not worth it.
No, what's funny though now is when friends are getting cars, they'll say, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a Prius or like a full efficient car, and we ask them why, and it's efficiently like the first answer is, oh, because of DoorDash or Postmates. Whenever we want to do it, we want to make sure we pay the like people are preparing for it, like, or subconsciously that they're going to do it.
So you guys have, it's almost like you have little, you guys almost have like these little P&L. I mean, you guys are thinking in terms of that, right? You're thinking in terms of, well, if I make this much money, I've got this much in expense. And
Right.
so, I don't want to raise my expenses by, and my net profit is, infringed upon. So, okay. So you guys can make, 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour doing like an Instacart or Postmates or whatever, whenever you want. You don't even have a uniform. I mean, and you don't even have to you don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn. I mean, when I was in college, I was working, I waited tables down at Gladstone's in Malibu, and I got whatever shifts were given to me. It's like, you got to work breakfast. Well, that sucks. And breakfast on a Saturday after I've been partying all night on Friday. And I've got to wake up at like 5 a.m. and get myself together and go down there. And I may or may not make money. And I've got some cranky boss and, whatever. So you all are just, we didn't have these options that you guys have. Another thing that's interesting is you all have also the ability to buy low and sell high, like anything. The sneaker market is insane. I mean, the fact that sneakers are sold on the resale market and the cost of a sneaker is dependent upon the size. So if I wear a size 7,
It's a stock market. That's the best way to put it.
yeah, like the
Sneakers
sneaker
are stock.
market's a stock.
One day you're losing 20 on a shoe. The next day you're making
Like
100.
StockX literally shows you the volatility of a shoe. So
They have
like
the
how
graph
much-
of it,
Yeah,
yeah.
like how much it'll go up over time or how much it'll
How much
decrease
it
over
used to
time.
be
It's all supply and
Yeah,
demand.
it's just a market for hype beast.
Right. I mean, so that's like, I know some of you, I mean, look, I wanted a pair of Yeezys, and Andrew, you have a friend who's got like a whole bunch because he bought them at, whatever. He bought like a whole thing of them, and then he's selling them, but it's like, oh, what's your size? Well, if you're a size 7, they're going to be this much. But if you're a size, 10, they're going to be another
This much.
price.
Yeah.
That's just nuts. But okay, whatever. So you guys have all these different ways to make money. So we have a couple questions here, and I want to make sure that we get these answered. Woo. Okay. So
We're not able to see the chat, so you're gonna have
I
to
know.
read it out.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna read these out. Okay, cool.
What is
So
Yeezys?
so my friend Chris Lestitian, hey Chris, in Manhattan Beach, she says, interested in wondering what their motivations and goals are. Are your goals making money, or are your goals helping others, or is it education? What are your goals?
Who wants to take this?
Like what is your motivation rather?
Well, I would say what motivates me is like my passion, what I'm passionate about, whether that's like, I have multiple passions, whether that's trading in the market, going to school and learning like about law,
Yeah.
criminology, all that. Just
Working out.
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah,
motivation.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people have extrinsic, like there's an extrinsic and intrinsic like motivators. So I feel like a lot of people base their values like in extrinsic, but that's just like really not the way to go. Like I recently read a book called Drive, and it kind of talks about like what motivates the human kind of. And he says that like monetary reasons are not good reasons to really drive yourself, because it's very short term, and like for the long term, money is really not the way to go. So it's really like you kind of have to find your why, I guess, and your purpose. Like it's kind of deep. Like we're
You have to
young,
enjoy it.
like we don't really know our specific why, but like we kind of have an idea
We're
of like
figuring
what we
it out.
like, and we're figuring it out.
We're experiencing different things, trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, my first goal when I'm trying to do something is if I enjoy it or not. I mean, like if it helps others, and that's great. If it makes money, that's great. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to do it
love
unless
it.
I really want to.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I
So-
think for most of us, like if you really come down, it's a smile. Like,
Yeah.
as long as when we're older and if we're smiling, we're happy. I mean, as you were just talking about, I don't think a lot of us are worried too much about money because there are so many ways to make it. If we don't have any, we know that we can just get a fuel efficient car and just sign up for an app, and we can, if we really put our mind to it, we could probably make around $200-$300 a day of doing Postmates and Instacart, and that we just want to do what we're passionate about. That's why you see us always jumping around doing a bunch of things, because we're exploring and seeing what we love,
Hustlers.
and then we do it, and then money will follow, and we're happy. So I think that's the goal.
So is that your goal right now, or would you say that that's kind of your drive going forward? I mean, do you feel like when you think about where you're going to be, I mean, so all of you are what, 20? Andrew, you're 19. So where you're going to be when you're 30, is your goal to be happy? Is your goal to do purposeful work that helps others?
My
Or is
goal
your
isn't-
goal like to be wealthy?
It's not just to be happy. I'd say it'd be more to be able to be successful and then also be able to look back and not have any regrets about what I
I mean,
did.
Exactly.
think-
That's a big one.
yeah.
No regrets.
No
I think
regrets, yeah.
that wealth and happiness can also like correlate. Like I
Yeah.
can be wealthy and happy, and also like for me, like I don't want to be wealthy to like. I mean, cars and houses, like yeah, that's nice, but like to really like, because you can get involved in like philanthropy and like charity work and kind of other things. So you can kind of like, and then that's where you can also find more happiness. So when you're wealthy, you can get involved in like other things that can help. It's easier to help people when you have the money to help people.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, obviously, yeah, the correlation between happiness and wealth is just, they're so tied, and like the world is designed where if they try to bring you down as much as possible, and they work like even media is forming. If you don't have money, you can't be happy. If you don't have money, you can't be happy. But
That's, yeah, you can.
But
be
yeah,
happy.
but I'm
That's
saying
not the
that's
case.
our Gen Z. What we do, we ignore that, and that's what I'm saying is we know we can make money, and we know we can be happy. So I say.
So let me ask you guys, let me ask you guys this question. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you something a little bit personal, and you don't have to answer it. But I want you to go down the line. Were your parents, when they started a family, when your parents were your age, were they wealthy? Had they come from wealth?
No.
No.
No, I'm first generation. Yeah, my parents came here. I think about $400-$500 in their pocket, and they went from there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't even born. Yeah, no.
Okay, so
think
is that a
anybody-
unanimous no? Spencer, did you?
Yeah.
were you-
No. None. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so interesting, an observation, because I think that I can speak for us, and I can probably speak for your parents, and that is that what drove us was survival. We were fueled by survival first and foremost. Ahmad, your parents came here with $500. Like they had to work. They had to do whatever it took to work. I can tell you that the background that myself and Andrew's dad, you know, we were driven by survival, and because if we didn't make it happen, we went hungry. So that, and fear, I would say we were probably driven by survival, and fear was even what was underneath that. And if we did our job well, then our kids, you guys, would not have to have that same fear. So, you know, I grew up where, you know, I mean, my parents may not have been able to pay the bills. My parents, you know, we had financial problems, and big financial problems. And you guys have always been able to come home, walk through the front door, know that the house, you never had to stress that your house payment was made, that, you know, that your school tuition's being paid, your necessities in life are being paid. You never had to carry that stress as a kid. So as you're older now and you're starting your adulthood, I think you don't have the fear and the survival that is what's driving you, which is interesting. And it says that we as parents, I think we probably achieved what we were hoping to achieve, was that we made our next generation better than the last. So then it's like, well, what is the drive? What is the drive? It's to be happy. It's to make a difference. So that's just an observation.
If you look at like the Gen Z as a whole, I mean, I bet not all Gen Zers were able to not worry about bills, not worry about this, not worry about that. So I think it's not like, it's more of like I said, we live day by day and we trust each other. And I think that's kind of the motivation, the drive is, and we take the flip of the coin and say it will work out. And if it doesn't, we know the magnitude won't really affect us. And if it does, the magnitude will help us out and positively. So I think that's like the general idea that Gen Z runs with.
And not having the stress shouldn't mean that like you should just be lazy and not like, try to achieve goals and stuff like that. I see it as more as a blessing, and if you have the opportunity to be assisted,
don't give up opportunities.
It should help you to further yourself.
Yeah.
It's figured as an assist, but.
So another thing we talked about was that you also felt that a college degree was maybe a waste of money, or that you didn't see that there was necessarily an ROI on college. And yet your parents grew up with this expectation that if you did not go to college, if you don't have, there's two sides of the street, those with a college diploma and those without a college diploma. And if you don't have a college diploma, then you'll never be successful, really. Or if you are, you're a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
I think that.
So what's your thought on college?
You can go.
I was just going to say that I think in today's society that most degrees are basically just paper. A lot of them. Okay, don't get me wrong.
It depends what you get into.
I mean,
it depends what you get into. Sometimes you need it, but I think
there's a large distinction though between college and education. Like nowadays, college, you're kind of just worried about numbers, like GPA. Like a lot of kids nowadays really aren't like worried about learning. Like a lot, they're worried about getting their numbers up so they can get the best job. They can go to the best law school. They can go to the best med school. Like I think it comes down to like education. Like if you don't go to college, you can educate yourself, whether it's in real estate, stocks. Like you can educate yourself. You don't need to go to college.
But if you just don't go to college and just do
like,
nothing.
Yeah, you can party in college if you want, but like you can really educate yourself and learn a lot in college. It just kind of depends like what your goals are and what you want to get out of it.
It depends what you do with it. It's all up to you.
Yeah.
And also a big thing is I feel like we're not at the point like totally where you can just completely say no college. I think like we need another about maybe 10 years, 5 to 15 years where then like that will really be like, okay, if you don't go to college, you will 100% be fine. Because I mean, we're leading there. I don't think we're just there yet, but I think we're close to like that line.
So I mean, if you compare people with college degrees to people without, it's more likely. Because
the reason you hear that is if one person is successful in the stock market, we hear the success, but we don't hear the million people that lost money.
That's what I'm basically saying though. So it goes both ways for like the people that don't go to college and do make it compared to the people that don't make it.
Exactly. So I want to also sort of, just throw out like there is a little bit of an elephant in the room, and that is you boys are privileged. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys went to private schools. You've got college that is, I'm not going to ask how your college is getting financed, but I'm going to assume that you're not going to be saddled with a lot of debt, if any, when you graduate. You all came from financially secure homes, and how do you, I mean, I guess how do you see your privilege? I mean, it's hard, I guess it's hard for you to answer any sort of question coming from someone who doesn't have privilege. I mean, to be honest with you, you can't, like a kid who doesn't have a car, every one of you has a car and it was paid for by your parents. And so you can do Uber Eats, you can do Instacart. There's a whole other class of society that does not have what you have. And all of you who hang out at my house have heard me say it over and over and over again. To whom much is given, much shall be required. You all were born into privilege that came with options. And you have a duty to make the world a better place. You may not know what that means yet, but how do you ensure that with the privilege that you were born with, how do you ensure that you're helping people?
Yeah.
You're giving a hand up.
See, one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone has opportunity and they don't take advantage, and they just lay on the couch and be lazy. I hate that. I think, yeah, of course there are privileged people, that's uncontrollable, and God, knock on wood, that's all of us. But the matter of, if you look at the things that we're doing day to day and you compare it to people that are not, is we are doing our part. For example, I mean, Spencer and I, we were trading options, short calling and betting in high school, junior year, and we were making successful money. And on top of that, they also do their own thing. And I started All True, and we're doing what we need to do at the age that we are. So later on in life, we're able to do the change that we want to pursue.
Yeah. I mean, also there's a lot of social pressure also when you come from a privileged family. Like there's social pressure to like I don't feel as much, but like to be more than your parents, kind of. Like our parents came from nothing pretty much, but so they like you also, but you came from nothing, so you had to go from there. Yeah. But I'm trying to be greater than my parents and let my kids have better opportunities than even I did. I mean,
although we might have come from privilege, I think it would have been, we still need to do something that either is just as good, if not better, than our parents, especially.
The best way to do, we don't take advantage of the privilege. We do what we need to do, and we put our heads down and we do it. We do our school, we do our extracurriculars. And
it definitely is harder for the people who don't have that privilege, because they're on top of school, work, all this, they're gonna have to be paying.
They don't have the opportunities.
But
that's why.
That's a change that potentially.
If they were
privileged,
I think we're going. I think we're going toward the point where the privileged are trying to give less opportunity, the people with less opportunities.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate goal for the next
generation. Is that
something?
So I guess there's sort of two. I guess there's sort of two things that come with it. Number one is not to squander the privilege that you've been given, and to honor that. Honor what your parents have done for you. Honor the privilege that that you were given. What a crime would be to see you squander that.
Exactly.
So you have a duty. And the second thing is, there are people all around you who do not have privilege. And what are they on your radar at all? Is it on your radar to be engaged with people from other socioeconomic classes?
Yeah.
Definitely.
If I find a way to,
my roommates,
whether or not it's money or not, if I find an opportunity that everybody has a chance in, I will always take the chance to tell my friends about it and tell everybody know about it.
It's more of relating this back to the Gen Z aspect.
Yeah,
we don't think about that. We don't think about that. We don't think about.
We don't look at someone.
Okay, cool. You have a $5,000 watch, and you have $20 watch from any TJ Maxx. It's the same exact person. We don't think about the money. We don't think about this because we know that, sure, you have no money today. Tomorrow you can literally be a millionaire.
We do acknowledge, we acknowledge it. We don't judge. We just don't judge basically.
Yeah.
We acknowledge you didn't have as many opportunities.
We're not going to judge.
Exactly. But I'm saying we don't think about it in an aspect of there's a separation type. The way we look at it is just.
We think you might have a disadvantage, but we always think that you have an opportunity. Basically.
So you don't judge. So that is an excellent start. You don't see yourself as better than because you have, whatever, right? You don't see yourself as better than, right? You see, you don't judge. Well, that's good. And I think that also, seeking out opportunities to use the gifts you've been given to help other people up is something that you may not be ready for right now, but it's just something that I'd like to plant that little seed that you look for those opportunities. And I also know, that you do have, I have lots of kids in my house, and we do have kids that are from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so in any case, okay.
If I'm,
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
well, I was gonna say, like, if I'm being honest too, it's not necessarily just judging a person to, like, if there's somebody I know that is in a worse situation than me, whether or not they have a bunch of issues socioeconomically, like that. It's not so much about me thinking I'm better than them. If anything, I think of it more as they're better than me, and I'm more intimidated by them just because I never went through the stuff that they might have went through. And if anything, it just shows me, you know, maybe they might be either better, if not stronger, just because of the things that they were able to go through, and they're able to still stand here today and stuff.
That's a
So
good.
that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, it's like
I
there's
think
a
that's how lot of
grit. There's a
people-
grit that they have that
I feel
you
like
may not have.
I feel like a lot of privileged people are intimidated today by people without the privilege, if anything, especially.
Interesting. Interesting. Spencer, you started to speak about pressure and your generation has got more anxiety, depression, and suicide
Yeah.
than any other generation.
Yeah.
And I would say that, you know, a lot of your generation smokes pot. By the way, you don't call it pot. What is it you call it? Pot is out, guys. What's pot? What do you call it?
Zaza.
Weed.
Saza, weed, other things.
Marijuana.
Marijuana. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, so a lot of your generation, I think, self-medicates with that. What is it? So there are all different reasons why kids of your, you know, the Gen Z kids can be depressed and can have anxiety. But I want to speak to you guys. I mean, privileged kids, right? I mean, you've got parents like me, probably your parents, you're like, you got to be kidding me. What do you possibly have to be stressed about? You guys have way more than we ever did. But you do have anxiety. You do have real things. So what is it that you think is the root of a lot of anxiety and suicide?
I'd say social media has a big part in it. 'cause
I think it's the sole reason. as to
It's
why.
social media.
Social media, 100%. Yeah.
People think too much about what other people think about them. Also, I think
But-
that's one of the biggest
But
things.
also, drug abuse could also.
Yeah,
be
I mean,
a
also
factor.
now like with technology and everything, now it's just like kind of people are kind of just a number, kind of like your GPA, your SAT score, and your data
Your
on
net worth.
Facebook. Like
You're
your
kind of
network.
just
Like-
reaching for unachievable. What's the word?
goals.
Yeah, like unachievable goals, like stuff that you might not ever be able to achieve, whether or not like not money in general, but just like unachievable things. And you just keep
Yeah.
trying to find that, and you'll never be able to find it because it's impossible.
It's expectations as
Yeah,
well.
unachievable
We're
expectations,
seeing
yeah.
social media. The first thing we see in the morning is the best looking people in the world and the best destination in the world, and they just have the biggest smile in the world on camera. And then when we see this every single day, multiple times a day, like subconsciously it generates like this idea: I need to be there. I need to be there. I'm not happy unless I'm there. And I think that's a big form of where
Yeah.
people are getting anxiety. People are like, I need to be like these influencers. I need to be exactly where they are. So there's pros and cons from everything.
It just
I
changes
guess.
the way everybody kind of thinks.
Yeah.
The way we,
Some people
our
take it
goals,
as
our
they think
priorities,
less
they're all
of them.
different now because of social media in general.
I mean, also kids nowadays are getting it at like not like super young ages. Like we got like Instagram at like what, like 13, 14,
Yeah,
15. Like kids
we
have it at like
still
9 or
have it.
10
Yeah, but
now.
that's good
And like
because-
that's when your brain is in like a developmental stage where you kind of like you're interacting with kids, but now it's like over social media and like
It could
Zoom
be-
calls.
It can be good
Yeah.
and bad. There's pros to it. It's like if you're learning
Yeah, in
things,
moderation, it's
yeah.
good, but like most people at a young age are not going to be able to control
but
themselves.
eventually-
They're gonna be
Eventually-
screenagers.
Yeah.
I
They're
have,
screen
like, for
agents.
example, I haven't been on any social media for over a year. You haven't
Yeah,
been on it
yeah.
for over half a year. I mean, you just eventually timing gets in the way. You just kind of realize it's not important. It's just there's more important things in our lives that we have to focus on now than just posting a picture to impress others. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's like, it's just not worth it. It's
Do
I mean,
you,
there's no
will, you,
point.
will you guys let your kids have social media?
No.
At a older age, maybe like teens.
Yeah.
Depends if they're a bit well behaved. Like if they're doing all their schoolwork and they want to go on social media for an hour a day.
If I trusted them,
Yeah, it's
and I can understand that
it's
they were.
we're big on trust.
What do you think that parents need to know about you guys on social media? Because I mean, you guys left us in the dust. I mean, to be honest with you, all these like parent things on Verizon subscription, whatever, to track. Like, it's just, we don't even know how to track you, if we're being honest. So,
Life 360.
oh, I do. Do your parents all have Life 360? Because I track.
Back in the
Back
day.
in the
Back
day.
in the day.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I will never. Andrew's world will come crashing in. He will be cut out of the will, and his bank account drained if he ever turns off his Life 360 or disconnects me from it. So, okay, Tyler Baldridge, our friend Tyler. Hey, Tyler. Tyler has got a question, and I've got to have Tyler on. I wish you were here so you could be on. Our generation is clearly very different from the generation our parents are in, he says. In what ways do you think we are similar, if any, and how many more generations until that similarity dies out?
That's a good question. I think maybe, if anything, I think this generation can maybe make it die out just because of social media itself. In, say, 10, 20 years, things are going to be extremely, I mean, if you think about it, 2012 doesn't seem that far ago, but then if I were to take myself back there were a lot of things that, like, I used to be like, oh, I wish this was made. And today it's like, these things are actually here and we'll have access to it. And so
It'd
I
be
think
communication. I don't think it's ever going to leave, but there's going to be different forms of it. But I think the one thing we always all have in similar is we all want friends,
Community.
We all want a community. We all want people to be together. And that's human interaction. I don't think that won't ever leave. It's a matter of that will change how we do it.
So many people think that you guys don't have interpersonal skills, because many people in my generation think that you guys are just on your screens all the time and you don't even know how to have conversations. You don't even know how to have interpersonal skills because you guys have been on screens.
it's definitely affected and made people antisocial.
You get the best of both worlds. I'm telling you, that's the biggest con about our generation is you get the best, but you also get the worst. There's no outliers. It's like
it's either really good or really bad.
And then there's a few. The outliers are in the middle. So you have they're the outliers. Outliers, instead of the outliers being in the outsides, they're the inside, the middle. So you have to just run into the right people.
The inliers.
The inliers, I guess.
What is the biggest lesson that you've learned from your parents?
Biggest lesson.
I'd say, you
can just go through. You can just go down.
Biggest lesson. I mean, I'd probably have two that come to mind, but the first one is probably like nothing in life is free. Not really in a monetary sense, but in a sense that you're going to have to work. And if you really want something, you're going to have to work for it, and you're going to have to put work into it. And the second, if you're going to do something and put your time into it, don't do it good, don't do it great, do it the best that you possibly can. So like put your time into it and really focus on something if you're going to dedicate yourself to some sort of task or job. That's what my parents would probably taught the two lessons.
That's a good one.
That's awesome.
I'd say the best thing my parents taught me is always give time for myself. Is when you reach to an age, you realize that like you're giving a lot of time here, a lot of time here, a lot of time here, but people miscommunicate the time that they need for themselves. So my parents have always told me to reserve that time, allow my time to think, control my emotions, and make sure that when I have to approach a task, I am ready before I approach it.
It's amazing.
mental health.
That's good. Andrew Stark.
I'd say
This one's important.
I'd say accountability is probably the number one thing, because no matter how successful I get, no matter how confident I get, there are always going to be times when I'm wrong. And no matter how successful I am, I won't be better until I'm able to accept and acknowledge that I might be wrong sometimes and that I need to think better and do better. But if I'm just consistently telling myself that I'm not in the wrong or whatever, then I'm not really growing as a person.
Good job, Ms. Starks. Good job. That's a good one, Andrew.
Good answer. Good answer. That's awesome. Randy.
The big one now.
I'd say one thing my parents taught me is always work harder now, so it's easier in the future. Whereas if you don't work hard now, it will be harder in the future.
It'll all pay off.
Yeah. Always think for your
Work
future.
now, play later.
Yeah, that's one thing we used to all tell each other. Like literally at 8th grade, we all knew each other. It's like, focus now, will pay off when we're in like 27, 25, 26.
Always,
then we'll be on the beach in Miami.
always think about your future self more than your present self, because temporary is less important.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. You guys, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. We're out of time. That went so fast. I have a feeling we'll need to do another one.
We'll have to run it back.
Yeah. I would love to. And I would love to talk to you guys again. I mean, the whole COVID thing. I mean, I'm sorry that you all have had to spend, this year, which is traditionally an epic year in your life, that you've had, your wings clipped for this period of time. And yet what I know is that all of you have not let it go to waste. You've not squandered it. I think that it has taught you many things, and you have grown this year. You all are a generation, you're the only generation this has ever happened to, that for any of us that are alive. And I'm very, very proud, and I love each and every one of you. And just remember all the wisdom you just said. And remember that God gave you all talents, and he gave you gifts, and for you to never lose sight of that, and to dig deep and figure out what those are, so that you can make the world a better place than it was when you came. So, and I know you're all doing that. So I love your journey, and we'll have to have you back and see how things are going when maybe when the world turns, when the world opens up again. So
Thank you.
Definitely.
We'd love to be back.
Thank you to all the viewers.
Yeah,
Thank you all
to
the
the
viewers.
Type in the chat if you want us to
Yeah.
come back, do another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you guys like us to do another one? Yeah,
Thumbs up in the
please do.
chat.
Share
Thumbs
the
up in the
video as
chat.
well. Everyone share the
Oh,
video.
we're
Get us some publicity.
I love it. Love
Thank you
love
so
it.
much, Mr. Starks. We
All
right.
appreciate it.
All right, guys, you got it. Thanks. Love you.
All true
Thank you.
listings. Make sure to subscribe.
Check out All True, ALTRU listings.com. Okay,
That's
bye.
enough for the video.